All right, so Putco Bus Company has now dismissed 105 drivers. This is after 8 days of an unprotected strike. Drivers say the bus company owes them bonuses dating back 3 years. The company disputes this. And for more on the story, Putco spokesperson Lindokuhle Xulu joins me in studio. Linda, thank you so much for joining us. So let's deal firstly with the 105 drivers. Last night, you were looking through the reasons why people said they didn't need to be fired. You were concerned some people might have been intimidated, but ultimately 105 drivers are this evening without a job. Is that just in Gauteng?
It's across board. We've identified people that have been acting, unlawfully as far as the strike was concerned. The strike itself was unlawful, but those people that we've seen basically stopping people from going to work, those that are non-striking, burning tires and, stopping workers from actually leaving the premises of Putco when they are done with their duties. It's a whole range of issues that we've considered. You'd remember also that every company has its internal policies in terms of how to deal with discipline. There are those that were already on a final warning. Those are the ones that will be going as well. But indeed, we can confirm as Putco that 105 people will be parting ways with Putco. They will no longer be in the employ of Putco. And this is out of approximately 1,000 workers. But remember, yesterday we gave them an opportunity to say that they must make representations in terms of why they should not be fired. We are happy to say that individually, about 400 of these workers had managed to make representations individually. But we also saw that about 500 were represented by their unions, because we were worried that people were not necessarily taking that, but unions came into play in terms of representing their workers. So what we are expecting right now is that out of the workers that are now in the employ of the company, they will still get warnings, final warnings in terms of what they had undertook in this illegal strike, and we are hoping that they'll be going back to work, because this is a final warning. But should they not return to work, then we'll take further action and dismiss them as well. But for now, the number stays at 105.
So that's approximately a tenth of your workforce. Are buses going to be back on the road tomorrow?
We're hoping buses will be back on the road on Monday instead of tomorrow, because tomorrow is the actual exercise of putting these notices. In fact, I saw some of the business units have already started putting these notices to say that workers have been dismissed. But we are hoping that CAM will return. Tomorrow, I think we will be obsessed in terms of making sure that we deal with issues of how are we going to operate with the staff that has already left us, and also in terms of some of the issues that passengers are grappled with. How are they going to be reimbursed in terms of their tickets? Are they going to lose the tickets that have expired? So those are the things we must come up as a plan before we say we take to the streets. Yeah.
So you've indicated obviously 105 have now been dismissed, but it could actually be more.
It is going to be more if people don't go back to work. Remember, the representations say that some people are saying that they were intimidated.
When do they have to be back at work?
They need to be back at work by tomorrow, if not Monday. Because
so when reporting for duty, even if buses are not on the road.
But still, tomorrow is a working day, so we're expecting those people to be inside the depot. As much as we might not be operating, but they need to report for duty. So there's a criteria that's going to be set as well, stipulated in terms of what needs to happen. These people represented themselves saying that we are not part of the strike, we've been intimidated, we are willing to work and wait for the court process to unfold. So we're expecting that the full complement of those that are still in the employ of Putco must then come back and work.
It was interesting listening to the unions, a couple of unions represented, but I want us to listen to a clip from NUMSA, because while they acknowledge that in a wildcat strike they can't represent their workers because it's gone against the rules, they have a lot of sympathy. Pagamile Hlubi Majola just saying 3% is not enough. This is a company that's doing well, that is supported by government. Let's just take a listen.
This is why workers are angry, because they're saying, how dare you keep going to court, claiming poverty, when your finances do not back it up, when the exemption committee has said to you that you can afford to pay this money. You are just dragging this whole process, possibly for the duration of the wage agreement, so that you don't have to to pay. And this is why we're saying that they're selfish. We're saying that they're greedy, and this is why, as NUMSA, we've made a call that the Department of Transport must stop subsidizing Putco. Why subsidize Putco with taxpayer money when these executives just pocket the monies for themselves and they don't do anything to try and give back to workers?
So that's quite a harsh allegation, saying that the people who are running Putco are selfish and greedy, that they actually can afford more than a 3% increase. And let's face it, I don't know, what does the average bus driver get paid a month?
I'm not so sure about that. It varies from one driver to another. Remember that there's different experiences.
Give me an average.
I have I don't have that information at my disposal.
I would imagine it's not top dollar. And
as any other job in this country.
Yes, and we know that. That is true. And we also count ourselves lucky if we have a job. But the reality is a 6% increase, bearing in mind the cost of living at the moment, is not that much of a huge ask if your company is doing well. So how well is the company doing?
May I just contextualize this issue? Remember that we asked for an exemption for the year 2020. This was when everyone was grappling with COVID-19 and the effects. The sector on its own lost about 40 small to medium companies that closed shop. 7,000 jobs were lost. So we were recovering from COVID-19. There were still some alert levels that were implemented at the time. But what I want to say is Putco had also not been spared from all of those effects that year. And what we essentially did was to say, instead of taking the easy routes that some might have taken in terms of looking at retrenchments, we decided that we apply for an exemption in terms of paying bonuses and an increment as far as salaries are concerned. This was to protect the 3,000 plus jobs.
But those bonuses have not been paid.
They have not been paid because the matter is before the Labour Court, right? So we were granted the exemption. The unions, to say that we're going to pay 3%, the unions appealed that decision to say that we do not want Putco to actually be exempted from this. They appealed it successfully. So Putco, meaning that they were actually supposed to pay the 6% and the bonus. But what we said as Putco was that because we believe that we had merit in terms of going to apply for the exemption, we then referred the matter to the Labour Court for review, which is where the matter is currently at. So when you say you are owing workers that money, then it means that there's a ruling that came from the Labour Court.
I understand what you're saying. What the workers are saying, though, is, well, you know, they've got a lot of money, they go to court, if they lose, they just appeal. We're never going to get our money. And it seems that Putco has taken a very hard line, and I'm trying to understand why, because I would imagine there are relationships with bus drivers. There must be people who've worked here for decades. You've fired a tenth of your workforce and you say there are going to be more firings. Why this hard line?
So much context in that. Remember that we said we applied for exemption in 2020. So it means in 2021, we actually paid the escalations and bonuses. In 2022, we are expected, and we are not going to apply for any exemption, going to pay these escalations as well as bonuses for that year. We as Putco have only applied for exemption twice, which was in 2018 and after COVID-19, which was in 2020, out of the 27 years of existence of the Bargaining Council. What we are essentially saying is that we've never had a nature of not paying bonuses, but because of the circumstances that were surrounding that time, we were then in a position where we needed to ask for an exemption.
Are you saying that Pakamelia is wrong when she says that your financials are actually in good order and you could afford this?
Very much wrong, and I must say that Pakamelia, and as far as representing other unions as well, because we've seen a lot of them now taking to the media and spouting some things, but we must correct it and say they are being disingenuous. They were represented in court today when we were going to get the order. Their pronouncement at the time was saying we're distancing ourselves from this. We've tried with our workers. They didn't listen to us. We can't physically take them from where, the picket lines and put them at work. They even further went to say that they will comply with the court order, which came out today, to say that each and every union that is within the Putco work environment must actually write a statement and publicize this as they publicize each and every statement, to say that they distance themselves away from the media, from this particular issue of the illegal strike. So they are being disingenuous when they say one thing in court and then come outside and say the other. Well, I mean, to be fair on
her, what she said outside court is, our hands are tied here, but we have sympathy, and this is why. Because if you look at the books, but you're saying you dispute that. I just want to ask you a question of safety. You're saying it's unlikely for Putco Basa to be back on the road before Monday. You were saying that you service about 150,000 commuters across Gauteng, Mpumalanga and Limpopo, which has not really been affected by the strike. My question is around safety concerns. You've spoken about intimidation. Some drivers, you say, have been intimidated. We've seen a presence outside one of the depots. Can you guarantee drivers and passengers' safety when you get back on the road on Monday?
We've taken every security measure we possibly can, and in fact, a plan is being, is being constructed to find ways in which we can operate. We know the threats very well. They have told us that our buses will not operate, but at the same time, we must appreciate. First of all, we went to court and got a court order that no one must hinder the services of Putco. But at the same time, we must appreciate the fact that this is a lawful country. We are governed by laws, and if there are any criminal activities, we are expecting that law enforcement, especially with a court order, will be able to assist us. But we are not sitting on our hands as Putco. We are also trying to avert the threat as much as we possibly can. As you can see, the people that have been identified and that are going to part ways with the company, it's a small number compared to what our operations are. But like I said, it's a coordination between law enforcement and private security that we have within our midst to make sure that we mitigate against all of those threats that have been hailed on us. So at the end of the day, while we ask the question of whether it is safe to go and operate again on Monday, I can simply say that I don't sleep, because there is a lot of commuters. I've given out my numbers on radio stations, essentially saying that anyone who has a question must ask me so that I can give them updates. But people are asking me to write letters directly to their employers to say that they've been affected by this. Someone sent a voice note today saying that he's even thinking now that he must go and sleep at a petrol station near where he works because he simply cannot afford alternative means of transport. So while we consider the threats and all of that, it's a lawful country. We cannot necessarily be governed by lawlessness, but at the same time, there's 150,000 passengers that we need to consider that are in dire need of the service that Putco produces to them or provides to them.
All right, so thank you very much for coming in. 105 of your drivers have now been dismissed, and there will be more dismissals following tomorrow. And you're planning, Putco, to have the buses back by Monday. Thank you so much. That is Putco spokesperson Lindokuhle Xulu, who is joining us to give us the very latest on that crippling strike. Now, still to come.